Louisville has lost back-to-back games. Is it time to hit the panic button? No, but we've got to have a very brutally honest conversation.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what is going on, everyone? Welcome in to this special Sunday evening episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. I want to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. This episode of the show is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Louisville did what they unfortunately couldn't do on Saturday. That is drop the football game to SMU. 34-27 loss for Jeff Brom's team. Many have started to hit the panic button. Is it time to do that just yet? No, not yet. But we're going to have a very serious and brutally honest conversation coming up here in just a second. After that, we will dive into what went wrong in this matchup. The big plays given up by the defense, not having an answer for Kevin Jennings. And then offensively, it was bad offensive line play, situational play calling, and just purely lack of execution on that front. So a lot of stuff to digest. Usually moving forward, like the plan for the show for a post-game recap is going to happen hopefully right after the game or some point that same day. But this one was a tough one. There's a lot of emotion built into this loss, a lot of finger pointing. Like a lot of people were pointing their fingers at, whoever's like, oh, this loss is on them or this loss is on them. And emotions were running high, and emotions were running high for me because I knew the ultimate I knew the ultimate importance of this game. Like, you couldn't lose this, and Louisville did. And now you have to just sort of live with the ramifications from it. So I wanted to give myself some time to collect my thoughts and display them in a way that it doesn't feel like ranting, or it's not repeating the same things over and over. And it's not confusing. Like, I wanted it to be coherent to where I basically articulated the way that I'm wanting to. So I finally, a little after 24 hours later, I've collected my thoughts, and I've really sort of, just calling it for what it is, just not good enough. Like, there's no reason that this team right now should be 3-2. Let me preface this little rant that I'm going to go on, or this little monologue that I'm going to go on, by saying that I support this team. Like, I love the Louisville Cardinals. I support these players. I support the coaches. I still have the faith that they can turn things around. Like, there is so much talent on this team. There's just some things preventing them from getting from where they are to where they want to be. The Cardinals have dropped out of the top 25, and right now that's probably for the best. Like, this is not a top 25 team at the current moment. You can't lose the last two games in which the way you did and still be ranked. So let's start here. After that Notre Dame loss, I mentioned that it was just a punch in the face that you had to bounce back from. And unfortunately, this wasn't an opponent that you could sleepwalk against. I mentioned time and time again that SMU is a good football team. Credit to them. They went out on Saturday and they handled business, and they deserve to win. Shout out to them. Shout out to the Pony Bros. Best of luck moving forward. I mentioned that I felt Louisville is the better team, but you've got to show it. You can't start out lackadaisical like you did against Notre Dame. You have to execute the game plan. You have to improve defensively, and you have to be really much improved defending a mobile quarterback. And it felt like everything that you were looking for Louisville to do early on, it didn't happen. You needed Louisville to come into this game hyped up, ready to go, understanding the task at hand. Mike Rutherford said, he was like, this is like, you have to be as mentally locked in for the Notre Dame game as you are for SMU. And that just wasn't the case. Like, SMU opened up the game on fire, I know that adjustments were made, but at that point, it really doesn't, like, yes, adjustments were made, but that doesn't take away what happened in the first half. And honestly, for the second, you might even be able to make the case for the third, because Georgia Tech came out early on and moved the ball well. It seemed like for the third straight game, Louisville was unprepared on multiple fronts. It seemed like after losing to Notre Dame, what was alarming to me is at kickoff, early in the game, the SMU sideline was amped up, ready to go, and it just didn't look like that energy was reciprocated and reflected from the other side of the field. Mark Ennis made a comment in the postgame press conference that I really agree with. It resonated with me. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the exact tweet. He said, we all just kind of got tired of looking at the field, and one sideline was juiced, amped up, and the other one, it seemed like lethargic, and there wasn't much juice. And that worried me, because this game, there was a lot riding on this game. And now you're losing it, or you lost it, and you've probably played yourself out of at-large opportunities to get into the playoffs, and you almost have to run the table to get to the ACC championship game. Right now, you're just playing to get better, right? But I look at this, and I'm watching early on. I'm watching SMU's offense do whatever they please. A mobile quarterback, the fourth straight mobile quarterback that Louisville's played, they don't have an answer for. SMU's offense is very up-tempo. They play extremely fast. And the Cardinals' defense was 100% not prepared for it. I mean, you could see the confusion between the defensive backs early on, and that continued throughout the game. Players on defense didn't know what coverage they were in. The assignments were, who knew? Substitutions were made at very inopportune times. It cost Louisville in this game, substitutions did. And some of the same mistakes that might be small in nature, but they add up. I don't really want to take a stroll down memory lane, but I'm going to have to. One of the main knocks on Scott Satterfield's tenure here at Louisville is that Louisville made so many small mistakes that added up to where Louisville would have a bunch of offensive yards and they'd score points, but they would lose games. Now, I hope that doesn't become a trend here, but the past two games, that's been an issue, especially in this game against SMU, because it looked like the team came out completely unprepared. Jeff Brom even said it in his post-game press conference. I mean, you could tell how frustrated he was. And Jeff Brom's a smart man. He knows how frustrated the fan base is because he's frustrated. You could just tell by his demeanor that the game plan that Louisville rolled out there for SMU was just not effective. And it's sad because there's so much talent on this team. Like, let's be honest, this is one of, pound for pound, the most talented team since 2016 overall. The most talented team at Louisville since 2016. Maybe even more talented than that. Like, there is a ton of individual talent on this team to the point where you should not be 3-2. So the same issues, the lack of preparedness, having too much talent, couple that with, the opponents that you've lost to, like, you 100% shouldn't have lost both of these past games. Like, you might say, yeah, I mean, it's Notre Dame and SMU. Okay, both of those are good teams. You shouldn't have lost both of those. So coming out with no juice, and also don't forget, Louisville is 3-5 in their past 8 games. You also ended the season with some of these same issues on both ends of the field that just aren't being corrected. Like, there's some issues that are recurring that, again, you have to correct. Now, is there time to turn things around? Very much so. You're not even halfway through the season, which makes this debacle so much more severe, is that we're talking about Louisville like they don't have any playoff chances 5 games into the season. with the most talented team they've had in almost a decade, y'all. It's not good. Now, what's funny to me is that in 2022, when Scott Satterfield's tenure looked all but over, Louisville played on the road at Virginia, and they were able to start the turnaround process to salvage the season. Now, I guess Satterfield took another job. That's not the argument here, right? Because Satterfield looked like he was on a collision course with getting the boot. And he coached his way back to not doing that, to having a chance, but he ended up leaving. I find it very interesting that Louisville is now at a crossroads, having to make changes. Like I hear the coaches say, well, we didn't have a good game plan. It's on us. At this point, just make the changes. Like, yes, I get it. You are frustrated. The fan base feels that. I promise you, 8 games, you're 3-5. Changes have to be made. Schematic changes, whatever may have you. But I find it funny that Louisville is now faced at a crossroads. I mentioned it's not time to panic. Not yet, because if you lose to Virginia, it's time to panic. You're on the road at Virginia like you were in 2022. Louisville's going to be favored in this game. It is critical that the Cardinals win this game. They have to stop the bleeding right now. They have to turn things around, because if not, things get ugly when you have to face Miami the next week and you're staring down a possible 3-4 start. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Like, the time to turn things around was honestly after the Notre Dame game, but you have to do it now. And I have faith in this team. I'm going to have faith in this team until they show me not to. So I have faith in these players and in these coaches. But again, it's got to be shown right now. Let's get into what happened in this game. We'll start out with the defense, because that's the main talking point. And it was more the same for the Cardinals, giving up big plays and not able to defend mobile quarterbacks. We'll discuss on the next segment of Locked On Louisville. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just another job board. You can find those who aren't even actively searching for a new job, but might be open to finding the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire a professional like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Cardinal fans, want to take this time again to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. This Louisville defense has a ton of talent. You utilize the portal to bring in some big-time players. You brought some key rotational/starting players back, and you brought back Ashton, Gillotte, and Quincy Riley. Now, I know Quincy Riley has been hurt the past couple weeks, so you do have to mention that, because when you lose that caliber of a player on your defense, especially against an offense that moves the ball as well as SMU does, it's going to sting. And it did. It did 100%. But this defense was still too talented to be getting gashed the way that they had been in recent weeks. Like, the main focus is coming into this week was, number one, being able to combat SMU's up-tempo offense. Number two, limiting the big plays, which was my key to the game defensively, limiting the big plays, limiting the broken coverages. I mean, how many drives do we see SMU open up the drive with one play that got them in Louisville territory? 3 drives at least. 3 drives at least. And it looked like they ran that same, it's like a wheel route almost out of the backfield where they were going up the right side of the field. How many times do we see that? And Louisville just did not really have any answers for that. And that was sort of the mantra and the recurring theme, is that Louisville is still searching for these answers. And you can't look at me in the eye and say that this defense doesn't have the talent. We've seen Jeff Brom defenses do more with less. Like, this is, I will say, this is the most talented defense that Jeff Brom has had in his career as a head coach. It falls down to the coaching staff switching things up now and putting the players in the best position to succeed. Ron English has to figure some things out, because what is happening right now is not working. And it hasn't been for 8 games. Now, granted, I will say 7 games, because Austin Peay, I mean, you beat them fairly easily. They didn't score. But Jacksonville State, mobile quarterback, rushed for over 100 yards. Haynes King, you didn't really have an answer for him. Yes, thankfully you got him in short yardage situations, but he did what he wanted. Same with Riley Leonard. Kevin Jennings was probably the worst defensive performance by far. He was 21 of 27, 281 yards passing, 10 for 113 and 1 touchdown on the ground. He had 100 yards rushing in the first half. Now, yes, I will give credit where credit is due. Adjustments were made in the second half, and you were able to slow down SMU's offense enough and make some big-time plays. Yes, a field goal was missed, but you made some plays. So I'll give the credit where credit is due to an extent. Because, once again, Louisville was not prepared for a mobile quarterback. The 4th straight mobile quarterback, the Cardinals just were not prepared to defend. So something is not working. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Like, I'm not a coach. Like, I'm not with these coaches and players every day. But it doesn't take someone in the know to understand that what Louisville's doing with this talented defense, because you got a defense with Ashton, Gillotte, and a lot of these other players. Now, yes, again, we'll mention Quincy Riley did not play. But look at the talent on this defense. Louisville has more depth. They have more speed than they did last year. You're playing some better offenses than you did last year, and nothing is changing. Nothing's changing. The pass rush didn't get home. Now, I will say that some of that is you play a mobile quarterback, it's tough to defend, and SMU plays really quickly. But you didn't have an answer for the mobile quarterback. You gave up too many big plays. The pass rush was seemingly non-existent. And even though the pass rush didn't get there, the soft coverage, I mean, you watched SMU guys go up to the yard or to the line to gain. If it's 3rd and 7, they go up 8 yards, turn around and catch the ball. Like, something, some things aren't working, and they have to change, because it's not a personnel issue. It's not. This coaching staff talked up this defense all throughout the offseason. You can't say the things you did for them to be this bad. And I think that people believe what you said in the offseason, because this is a good defense on paper. Like, Ashton Gillotte is a very good defender. But, and again, this is me not being a coach, but looking at this from the outside looking in. The pass rush is not getting home. Ashton Gillotte's playing a lot in the middle on the interior. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's to show film to NFL draft scouts that, like, hey, look, he can do more than meets the eye. But you have an elite pass rusher, put him on the outside and let him rush the passer. Or rush the passer, sorry. Again, I'm not a coach. Not going to admit that I know more than the coaching staff. But something is not working. That's the whole thing here. Something's got to change. Louisville's got to bring more pressure, because even when Gillotte does rush the passer, he's getting double teamed. We know he's getting held. You see it when he's getting held. But the pass rush opposite of Gillotte right now is non-existent. That was one of the main questions coming into the season is, okay, you lost Tyler Barron out of the portal, or back to the portal. No Stephen Herron. Who's going to step up on the opposite side? And right now, Louisville's got to do something. Switch up pressure. Send more stunts. whatever. You have to just try something different because right now things aren't working. And guess what? It doesn't really get much easier. Anthony Colandrea tore the defense up last year. That's when this Cardinals defense started to struggle. And you're going to Virginia and playing him. Right after that, right after that's Cam Ward. I don't even want to think about that matchup right now. After that, Thomas Castellanos, who is great at extending plays with his legs. You've got Cade Klubnik still on the schedule. You have Brock Vandegrift. You have Eli Holstein, guys that can still make things happen with their legs. This isn't like something that's going away. You're going to face more versatile quarterbacks. You likely, arguably, haven't seen the best of them yet. So, again, we're going to talk more about this defense on tomorrow's episode of the show, but this effort, missed tackles, the unpreparedness on substituting, like not knowing, the assignments. And Jeff Brom said that they have to simplify the game plan. Okay. Like, I appreciate Jeff Brom's intensity and how pissed off he was. Got to make some changes. That's all I'm saying. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. Look, Tyler Shough had a really good game. Ja'Cory Brooks was phenomenal. Isaac Brown showed once again why he's a star in the making, but some things held Louisville back. We'll explain on the final episode of Locked On Louisville. Today's title sponsor of the show is GameTime. GameTime is the official ticket marketplace for all your sports, music, theater, comedy events near you. It has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. GameTime Picks takes out all the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on getting great seats. Ever since I downloaded the app, that is the only thing that I will use. I will not use any other ticket marketplace from here on out because GameTime's app is just so convenient. They have an all-in pricing feature that you can toggle on that will show you all of the total price with no surprise fees at checkout. You get a panoramic view from your seat. And don't even get me started on the GameTime ticket coverage. Your purchase is going to be covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. And into the final segment of this, I guess you could call it post-game recap, special Sunday evening episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Louisville losing 34-27 to SMU, 3-2 on the season. We just discussed what went wrong defensively. Offensively, look, all things considered, I don't think the offense was terrible because you had 461 yards of total offense, 329 passing, 132 rushing. You had one turnover, which was the interception on sort of a desperation play where Tyler Shough just had to throw it or it wasn't going to matter. You outpossessed SMU 34 minutes to 25. Now, granted, SMU runs a very quick offense. But look, there's a conversation that we're going to have on the show tomorrow, like a whole segment on like I kept coming back to thinking that Jeff Brom is running a different style of offense than he did when he was at Purdue in Western Kentucky. And when I really dove into that issue, it wasn't so much that as much as it was like the tempo of the offense. More so like the tempo and just kind of lack of execution. Like if Ja'Cory Brooks catches even one of those two passes that Tyler Shough threw on the money down the sideline, which he was basically in the end zone, if he catches one of those two passes, maybe we're saying things a little bit differently, right? I mean, Tyler Shough, he was just fine. I mean, granted, it wasn't the greatest game, but he was 22 of 35, 329, 2 touchdowns, the one interception. It was a desperation throw. It just kind of was what it was. Were there issues of him holding on to the ball too long? Sure. But all things considered with the offensive line play, I'm okay with how Tyler Shough played because Louisville's offensive line struggled really bad. Monroe Mills went out with an injury, and it sounds like Jeff Brom thinks that he's going to miss an extended amount of time, which really, really sucks. because they need him at left tackle. The right tackle, according to Pro Football Focus, the two right tackles were the two lowest graded players on offense. Rasheed Miller had a 39.1 Pro Football Focus grade. He played 49 snaps. Jonathan Mendoza, 46 grade on 54 snaps. Right tackle has been an issue with the team all season long, and it was on Saturday as well. Tyler Shough was under duress multiple times. And when I say multiple, I mean a good amount. Like, this was a really challenging situation. There were 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Compare that to three tackles for loss for Louisville and no sacks. Like, there was not a ton of time. I think the issues with Louisville first start with offensive line play. Like, nobody was perfect. Offensive line play was an issue. Tyler Shough did have some situations to where he maybe should have made a different read or thrown the ball away quicker, but everyone's going to make some mistakes. I was okay with how Tyler played. He showed, once again, he is an NFL talent if he stays healthy. Where the offense struggled, I look at 3 things. Number 1 was offensive line. Number 2 was situational play calling. I think that, in the third and short situation, like, yes, personally, I think that Louisville should have went for it. People say, oh, take the points. SMU has such a good offense that I was okay with Louisville being aggressive there, but the play calls I was confused by. 3rd and 1, you ran it up the middle. It didn't work. 4th and 1, you did the same thing, especially with how offensive line really wasn't getting that push. You were in the pistol on the 3rd down, and you just on that same drive had gotten a 3rd down conversion, 3rd and short, with Tyler Shough running it up the middle, sneaking. A quarterback sneak up the middle. Why you wouldn't do that again, I don't know. But it is what it is. It felt like the situational play calling has been an issue at times, especially against Notre Dame, and it was an issue against SMU as well. And the third part of this is I was really confused why Louisville didn't really utilize Isaac Brown as much as they should have in the 4th quarter. Like, Don Chaney got a lot of the work in the 4th quarter. Isaac Brown only had 10 carries in this game. Don Chaney had 10 as well. I think moving forward, Isaac Brown needs to be the go-to running back until that's assuming that Maurice Turner is going to be back sometime soon. We still don't know the status of Maurice Turner. It sounds like he's still going to miss a good amount of time. Isaac Brown had 10 carries for 117. He had a 53-yard run. Got a lot of run in that 3rd quarter. And then you go back to the 4th quarter in this game. And like, I'm looking at this, he got a couple of carries on the drive where, like, Don Chaney got both of those carries on 3rd and 4th down. I personally would have went with Isaac Brown. The next drive, Isaac Brown had the 12-yard run. Then he carried for 2 yards. And then the drive after that with the interception, continually looking at it, he didn't really get targeted. So maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed to be, but I'm really more so looking at, going with the hot hand. And in 3rd and 1, Isaac Brown's not the largest player, but he's shown you a really good ability to read the defense and make cuts. And giving the ball to Don Chaney in those short yardage situations, like, I know that's what he's good for. But with the offensive line not really getting that push, I would have liked to have seen Isaac Brown getting those opportunities. Now I know that all this is 2020 in hindsight. If it works, we'd be praising Brown, but it didn't. So a lot of my gripes aren't really with the offense. Like, offensive line play has to be better. That worries me moving forward. Situational play calling, which we know Jeff Brom can improve. So the hope is that he will. And then I hope that Isaac Brown is utilized more, because 10 carries for Isaac it doesn't feel like enough. Like, Isaac Brown has been the star of the group. He should be the guy getting the most carries, in my opinion. So not really worried as much offensively as I am with the defense. On tomorrow's episode of the show, we're going to really break down my thought about whether or not Jeff Brom is calling offense different than the way he did at Purdue and Western Kentucky, because from a schematic standpoint, not really, but tempo is a different conversation that we will have. We'll discuss what needs to happen on defense and much, much more. So be sure to stay tuned. That's going to wrap up this episode of the show. Go Cards. That's all I can say. Even in the high highs and the low lows, still a Cards fan through and through. This team has my full support, and I'm going to cheer them on as hard as I can on Saturday against Virginia. We're going to get you prepared for that game on this week's episode of the show. But as far as the weekend goes, we're going to wrap it up with this. We'll be right back.